Tommy Rees may be coaching on borrowed time. Whispers from the locker room point to growing tension between the offensive coordinator and the Browns' new franchise hope, Shedeur Sanders. Whether it's a philosophical rift or something deeper, the results have been alarming. Poor offensive schemes, a crumbling O-line, and inconsistent play calling have fueled speculation that Rees is either undermining Sanders or looking for a way out. Jimmy Haslam, however, isn't waiting around for clarity. He's reportedly preparing to pull the trigger on staff who stand in the quarterback's way. This isn't just about football mechanics. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. It's about creating a culture that lifts Sanders rather than limits him. Haslam's aggressive response to internal dysfunction signals a willingness to gamble organizational stability for long-term greatness. He believes Sanders can be the cornerstone of a winning era, but only if the roadblocks inside the building are cleared with precision and conviction. Jimmy Haslam isn't just the owner of the Cleveland Browns anymore. He's a judge, jury, and executioner of what he sees as an organizational mutiny. The message coming out of Berea is blunt. You're either with Shedeur Sanders or you're out. Staffers who once thought their tenure depended on winning games are finding out that their loyalty to a rookie quarterback is now the ultimate metric. In a league where ownership typically plays a quiet background role, Haslam is tossing out the rulebook and rewriting the front office hierarchy in real time. This isn't speculation. It's a full-blown organizational shift. Internal reports suggest that Haslam has put Sanders' development at the core of franchise decisions. Players, coaches, even long-tenured executives are being evaluated not by wins and losses, but by how much they support, enable, or obstruct Sanders' rise. It's a hard pivot, and it's already rattling the building. At the center of the storm is Shedeur Sanders, rookie quarterback, target of internal tension, and the man Jimmy Haslam has bet the franchise on. Despite the noise around him, Sanders has been steadily proving himself. His accuracy, ability to stretch the field, and calm under pressure have all stood out, especially considering the chaos swirling off the field. There's no rookie honeymoon period here. The organization isn't protecting him from criticism. They're protecting him from sabotage. Sources say Sanders has faced resistance from within, subtle but damaging. Missed protections, broken plays, questionable play calling. Things that could be chalked up to coincidence, until you realize the pattern only appears when Shedeur is under center. Haslam noticed, and now he's drawn a line in the sand. Kevin Stefanski's name keeps coming up, and not in a good way. The head coach, once seen as a steady hand in Cleveland, is now skating on thin ice. The Browns' recent matchups have highlighted breakdowns in communication and game planning that directly hurt Sanders' performance. In the Bears game alone, offensive schemes were disjointed, and protections left Sanders exposed multiple times. The whispers got louder. Is Stefanski actually building around Sanders, or is he just checking boxes? Sources inside the building claim Haslam is closely watching Stefanski's every move, measuring whether his loyalty lies with the old guard or the quarterback of the future. And right now, it's not looking good. Then there's Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, who's reportedly one meeting away from being told to pack up. His play calling has drawn heavy criticism, not just from the media, but from within the team. Analysts say Rees' schemes haven't adjusted to fit Sanders' strengths, and insiders claim he's reluctant to hand over real control to the rookie. Worse, there's chatter that Rees has been eyeing opportunities elsewhere, an open secret that's only intensified Haslam's suspicions. It's a dangerous game, and Haslam isn't bluffing. The moment it looks like Rees is more focused on his next job than Sanders' success, he's gone. The Browns aren't just replacing staff. They're filtering for loyalty to a new vision. And Rees? He might be the next one out the door. Despite all of this, Shedeur keeps showing up. In the Vikings matchup, he delivered under pressure, navigating a crumbling pocket, throwing darts across the field, and showing flashes of exactly why Haslam made this move in the first place. He's not just surviving, he's producing, even as the support around him falters. But one man can't fix a broken culture alone. That game became a microcosm of the larger issue, a talented quarterback making things happen, while the team around him barely keeps up. And yet, that's all the more reason Haslam is going nuclear. He sees a potential. He sees a dead weight, and he's ready to cut it. Haslam has been increasingly visible at practices, something longtime staffers find ominous. When the owner starts showing up daily, clipboard in hand, it's rarely a good sign for job security. He's not just observing. He's watching who's coaching, who's connecting with Sanders, and who's dragging their feet. Sources say Haslam's approach is simple. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And in practice, that means coaches giving lip service to Sanders' development while quietly pushing outdated systems are being flagged. It's the kind of top-down accountability rarely seen in NFL organizations. But Haslam isn't waiting for the offseason. The rebuild is happening now. Photos from recent matches show a noticeably tense sideline. Stefanski, usually animated and communicative, appears more withdrawn. Assistants whisper in clusters. Sanders, helmet off, scans the field alone between drives. Body language doesn't lie. And insiders say the atmosphere on the sideline reflects the uncertainty hanging over the team. Players reportedly feel the shift too. There's confusion about new expectations, concern about staff turnover, and a growing realization that Sanders is now the focal point of everything. Some are leaning into it. Others are resisting. Haslam's watching both groups closely. In preseason interviews, Shedeur stayed diplomatic. He praised the team, credited the coaching staff, and avoided controversy. But behind the scenes, his camp has raised concerns. They flagged inconsistencies in game planning, lack of tailored support, and moments that feel less like mistakes and more like sabotage. Haslam, who communicates directly with Sanders' camp, took those concerns seriously. That's when things started changing. Post-game breakdowns began including questions like, who missed this block and why? Who called that play and what was the goal? Accountability sessions went from routine to confrontational. Because once sabotage is suspected, every misstep gets magnified. During recent games, Haslam has been spotted in the box with a different look, serious, focused, and according to insiders, constantly taking notes. It's a far cry from the usual ownership routine of photo ops and media quotes. Haslam is working, and that's bad news for those who've flown under the radar until now. Executives who once operated with autonomy are being pulled into one-on-ones. Contracts are being reviewed, job descriptions rewritten. If you're not aligned with the mission, supporting Shedeur and building around his strengths, your seat's already hot, and for some, the fire's already been lit. Shedeur's highlight reel continues to grow, despite the dysfunction. Clips show pinpoint accuracy on sideline throws, clutch third-down conversions, and the kind of composure that makes front offices drool. But those same clips also show breakdowns around him, missed blitz pickups, receivers running the wrong routes, and total lapses in play design. It's a paradox. A quarterback good enough to carry the team through chaos, but not yet surrounded by people who can elevate him further. Haslam's betting the house that this can be fixed, not by tweaking, but by purging. And if that means replacing coaches mid-season or letting go of veterans who won't buy in, so be it. Tommy Rees continues to downplay the reports. Publicly, he said all the right things. He supports Shedeur, believes his development, and claims the offensive scheme is being adapted to fit his strengths. But the disconnect is showing. Game plans remain inconsistent. Audibles don't match the quarterback style, and the offense lacks rhythm. Rees may say he's all in, but the tape tells a different story. Behind closed doors, there are growing doubts about whether Rees can, or wants to, be the long-term answer. Some insiders claim he's still treating Sanders like a stopgap, not a franchise QB. That kind of mindset doesn't fly anymore, not under Haslam's watch. Kevin Stefanski's latest post-game interview was telling. He looked rattled. When pressed about Shedeur's protection and the team's offensive inconsistencies, his answers were vague. He blamed execution. He avoided direct praise. He even sidestepped questions about locker room buy-in. For a coach under fire, it didn't inspire confidence. That interview is now being dissected frame by local media and team insiders alike. The takeaway? Stefanski isn't leading the Shedeur era. He's reacting to it. And Haslam doesn't want a coach who reacts. He wants someone who builds, drives, and protects the quarterback he's staking everything on. In practice, Sanders continues to work like someone who knows every snap is political. Teammates say he shows up early, stays late, and studies filled with a level of focus that's hard to fake. But that doesn't mean he's immune to frustration. People around the team say he's asked for clarity on protection calls and demanded sharper communication from his line. It's not diva behavior, it's survival. At this point, Shedeur knows what's at stake. He doesn't just have to play well. He has to prove he's worth the revolution happening around him. And that means calling out inefficiency, speaking up when things aren't right, and demanding a system that lets him succeed. Haslam hasn't said much publicly, but he hasn't needed to. His actions say everything. From the personnel shakeups to the sideline meetings, it's obvious he's assuming direct control of the team's culture. Some players welcome it. Others are uneasy. Nobody's comfortable, and that's exactly how Haslam wants it. One team source at Haslam recently told staff, "If you're uncomfortable, good. You should be." That level of intensity has sent a message to the facility. Complacency is over. Either evolve with Shedeur or find somewhere else to coach. Of Shedeur on the sidelines during recent games tell a deeper story. In one, he's sitting alone, visibly frustrated, helmet off, eyes locked in the field as the defense takes over. In another, he's deep in conversation with an assistant, gesturing toward a tablet showing the previous series. These aren't rookie sulks. They're signs of someone carrying the weight of the team, even off the field. Multiple players have reportedly gone to team leaders asking why Sanders isn't getting more protection, both literal and organizational. That kind of talk isn't normal for a rookie, but Shedeur is not a normal rookie, and everyone inside the building is starting to realize it. In the matchup against Green Bay, Sanders gave the front office even more reason to believe. Despite constant pressure and inconsistent play calling, he threw for 2 touchdowns and converted multiple third and longs with pinpoint accuracy. The throws were NFL caliber. The pocket presence? Veteran-like. The only thing missing was a system built for him. Observers watching that game said it was a perfect case study. Sanders has it. The coaching staff? Still stuck in the past. And now, those decisions aren't just hurting the scoreboard. They're hurting job security. Training camp gave the first real glimpse into how serious Haslam was about building around Sanders. From day one, reps were structured to maximize Shedeur's development. Veteran QBs were relegated to backup roles. The playbook was adjusted, and during media scrums, staffers were told to emphasize Sanders' progress. Internally, this wasn't just about grooming a quarterback. It was a test. Who's really behind this direction and who's faking it? By the end of camp, several position coaches had already been flagged for resistance. One source claimed the WR coach was quietly reassigned after clashing with Sanders over route execution. This wasn't about disagreement. It was about alignment or the lack of it. In a recent press conference, Shedeur spoke carefully but clearly. Asked about the team's offensive struggles, he didn't deflect. He acknowledged the issues, praised teammates for effort, and stressed the importance of unity. But the subtext was clear. Things aren't where they need to be. Reporters noticed he referred to Haslam directly, something rookies almost never do. "Mr. Haslam believes in what we're building," Sanders said. That means a lot. That quote wasn't offhand. It was a signal to the media, the fans, and most importantly, the locker room. Sanders knows where the power is, and he's aligned with it. Stefanski isn't the only one under scrutiny. GM Andrew Berry is also navigating a minefield. He's the one who co-signed a decision to draft Sanders. But now that Haslam has taken a firmer hand in team operations, Berry's influence appears to be shrinking. Sources claim Haslam and Berry have disagreed on several personnel decisions this season, especially regarding offensive line depth and coaching hires. While Berry remains publicly committed to the Sanders era, the internal rift is becoming more visible. Haslam wants urgency. Berry prefers process. Only one of those timelines is still in play. Against the Titans, Sanders had one of his grittiest performances yet. The scoreboard didn't reflect it, but the tape did. He stood in against heavy pressure, delivered throws that should have been caught, and managed the offense in tough field position. Coaches didn't help. The run game collapsed early, and Sanders had to carry the load. Again, after the game, analysts pointed out just how much of the offense is already running through Shedeur. Rookie quarterbacks don't typically shoulder that responsibility this early. But in Cleveland, this isn't typical. Haslam's decisions have made it clear. The team runs through Sanders now, whether or not the coaching staff likes it. By this point, Jimmy Haslam's presence at practice isn't subtle anymore. Players notice when he's there. Coaches definitely notice. Conversations lower in volume when he walks by. Drills suddenly tighten up. It feels less like a routine NFL practice and more like a performance review happening in real time. Haslam isn't just observing mechanics. He's watching attitudes, effort, and who is actually invested in Shedeur Sanders' success. One source described it as a pressure cooker. If a drill breaks down and Sanders takes a hit, Haslam's eyes go straight to the position coach. If communication fails, it's noted. This isn't ownership curiosity. This is oversight. And it's making one thing painfully clear. Excuses aren't being accepted anymore. Shedeur Sanders responds the only way he knows how, by working harder. His reps in practice are sharp, deliberate, and intense. Teammates say he's vocal now, calling things out before plays even start. He's correcting alignments, checking protections, and making sure everyone's on the same page. That leadership didn't come from a memo. It came from necessity. But leadership doesn't fix everything. Sanders can read a defense, but he can't block for himself. He can make the right throw, but he can't force receivers to finish routes. And that's where frustration creeps in. Not outwardly, not emotionally, but in the quiet moments between snaps when the margin for error keeps shrinking. Kevin Stefanski's public comments have grown more cautious. He talks about process and long-term development, but the urgency in the building doesn't match his tone. That gap hasn't gone unnoticed. Haslam wants accountability now. Stefanski sounds like he's still waiting for things to stabilize on their own. Inside the organization, that disconnect is becoming a problem. Several assistants are reportedly unsure whose direction to follow, the head coach's measured approach or the owner's aggressive timeline. That kind of uncertainty bleeds into preparation. And in the NFL, hesitation costs games. Tommy Rees finds himself boxed in. On one side, Haslam's mandate to maximize Sanders' growth. On the other, his own offensive philosophy that hasn't translated on the field. Rees insists the system works. But when asked why Sanders isn't being used more aggressively, the answers get murky. Sources say Rees has resisted simplifying the offense around Sanders' strengths. Instead, the scheme often asks the rookie to compensate for breakdowns elsewhere. That's not development. That's damage control. And Haslam sees it. Every stalled drive tightens the spotlight on Rees. The Raiders' game was another test, and another mixed message. Sanders made big throws when it mattered, extending drives and keeping the Browns competitive. But again, the offense sputtered in critical moments. Missed assignments, poor timing, red zone confusion. The tape showed a quarterback doing his job, surrounded by inconsistency. After the game, several analysts pointed out how often Sanders was forced to improvise. That's impressive for a rookie, but it's not sustainable. And Haslam knows it. He didn't draft Sanders to survive dysfunction. He drafted him to end it. Behind closed doors, meetings have taken on a sharper edge. Staffers describe him as direct, uncomfortable, and final. Haslam isn't asking for opinions. He's asking for alignment. Are you committed to Shedeur Sanders as the future of this franchise? Yes or no? Those who hesitate don't get a second chance. Haslam has already made it clear that resistance won't be tolerated. Loyalty to old systems, old hierarchies, or personal pride is being treated as a liability. This is a rebuild centered on one quarterback, and everyone is expected to fall in line. On the sidelines, Sanders wears the weight of it all. He listens intently between drives, nodding, absorbing feedback. But there are moments when the frustration breaks through. A glance at the scoreboard, a deep breath after a missed opportunity. Cameras catch it, fans debate it, but inside the building it's understood. He's carrying more responsibility than most rookies ever do, not just for wins and losses, but for the direction of the entire organization. That's a heavy load. And yet, he hasn't shrunk from it. Recent match photos paint a telling picture. Stefanski stands isolated, arms crossed, watching drives unfold. Assistants cluster nearby, exchanging quick words. Sanders stands at the center of it all, surrounded by teammates seeking answers. The visual hierarchy has shifted. That shift isn't symbolic, it's functional. Players are looking to Sanders for direction. They're trusting his reads, his calls, his instincts. When a locker room starts following a rookie quarterback, ownership notices. And so does the coaching staff. In his latest press conference, Sanders didn't dodge responsibility. He talked about execution, trust, and doing the little things right. But he also emphasized accountability. Everybody's got to be on the same page, he said. That includes me. Those words landed, not because they were dramatic, but because they were honest. Sanders isn't asking for special treatment. He's asking for commitment. And that message aligns perfectly with Haslam's vision. As the season continues, one truth becomes unavoidable. The Cleveland Browns are no longer drifting. They're choosing a direction, and it runs straight through Shedeur Sanders. Jimmy Haslam has made that choice loud and clear, even if it means tearing down what's already in place. Players and coaches now understand the stakes. Support Sanders and adapt, or step aside. The Browns' future hinges on that decision. And for the first time in a long time, the franchise isn't hesitating. Shedeur Sanders has kept his composure in public, but make no mistake, he knows exactly what's happening. Every press appearance, every mic'd-up moment, every comment to media is delivered with calm confidence, but the undertone is firm. He's not here to just be another rookie. He's here to lead, and he's not afraid to make it clear that leading means having the team built with you, not around you. He's thanked the right people, acknowledged the challenges, and taken ownership of his mistakes. But there's also an unmistakable message. If this organization wants to win, it's time to get serious. The leash is off. The experiment phase is over. And Shedeur is showing he's already miles ahead of the dysfunction that's been dragging Cleveland down for years. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry remain caught between eras. They were hired to run the old Browns, careful, conservative, process-oriented. But Haslam's new regime doesn't care about cautious progress. It wants results. It wants leadership. And it wants absolute clarity on who's part of the solution. Stefanski's body language says pressure. Berry's silence says uncertainty. Together, they're facing a crossroads. Either evolve into the Shedeur era, or be remembered as the last staff before the Browns finally turn the page. And maybe that's the whole story. For years, the Browns have been stuck in transition, cycling through quarterbacks, coaches, strategies. But now, with Haslam choosing a direction and Shedeur proving he's worth betting on, the excuses are running out. It's time for Cleveland to stop surviving and start building. If you're watching this unfold and thinking this is not the same old Browns, you're right. The pressure's real, the stakes are high, and the transformation is happening right in front of us. Hit that like button. If you're rooting for Shedeur to rise above the noise, drop a comment with your take on who stays and who's out, and don't forget to subscribe, because the Browns drama, it's just getting started.